This is a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station.
The BFM Breakfast Grille, connecting you to top people and ideas. Powered by U-Mobile, Malaysia's #1 5G network.
I'm Wong Xiaoning and this is the Breakfast Grill. Malaysia is one of the highest water consumption per capita in Southeast Asia, averaging 247 litres per day, which is much higher than the World Health Organization's recommended level of 165 litres. At the same time, the average non-revenue water is also high at 37.1%. Meanwhile, what is the condition of our water assets and really what role does the state water service provider play? Questions we pose to Air Selangor. Their CEO, Adam Saffian Ghazali, joins us. Thank you so much for coming in. Now, as a single holistic licensee to abstract, treat and distribute water to consumers in Selangor, KL and Putrajaya, and also the largest in the country, justify to us why there's a need to raise tariffs come 1st September, except for some domestic users.
Okay. Thank you, Shani, for having me here in the studio. Before I proceed, I would like to acknowledge that we are aware every tariff adjustment will have an impact to all the stakeholders, be it businesses and people, especially in Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. The adjustment was made because it is necessary to ensure the sustainability of our water supply, as many new water treatment plants and pipelines need to be built to meet the rising water demand and support the state's economic development.
Okay. But these tariffs, right, weren't they just raised not too long ago? Because we had a hike for domestic users in February last year and then for non-domestic users back in August 2022. So can we expect steeper and higher hikes in the years to come?
Before I answer that question, Shawnee, basically before the adjustment were made, as what you mentioned just now, no tariff adjustment were made for 16 years, from 2006 to 2022, despite rising operating, maintenance and infrastructure development costs.
Okay.
So I think we have had that long period of non-adjustment. This is only right for a review to be made to ensure that we manage to supply the potable water to our customers.
Okay, but it would probably be better if the adjustments were done gradually rather than a huge lump sum, like a huge hike, right? But anyway, to Air Selangor's credit, there's been some positive developments post these tariff hikes. I think 730 km of pipes were replaced. NRW has been lowered to 27.3%. But I wonder whether Air Selangor is also just trying to turn profitable sooner rather than later so that it can be financially sustainable without depending on the state.
When we talk about a tariff adjustment, it depends on what we call this tariff setting mechanism. This tariff setting mechanism was established by the ministry at the federal level, which is being supervised by Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara as our regulator. What it entails is that tariff setting mechanism, the price should cover, number one, the operating cost, number two, the capital cost, and number three, a little bit return to state water operators like Air Selangor. In that respect, the adjustment has to be made in an interval period whereby we will give our recommendation to the regulator and then it will be discussed at the federal level. For Air Selangor, for the past 5 years, we have covered OPEX.
Okay.
But we haven't covered capital expenditure. That is the reason why the tariff adjustment is necessary for us.
Do you think there's ever a conflict though? Because you're a state-owned entity. You provide water for residents in Selangor, KL.
Yep.
And sometimes what you need to do isn't always going to be popular, let's say, when it comes to tariff hikes, and yet you need to future-proof your assets.
Correct.
So which is the priority here?
The priority is to make sure our customers, people and business, receive water when they open their tap. In order for us...
But not just any type of water, right? It has to be of a certain quality.
Correct, yes. To do that, we have to invest. Currently, we have 34 water treatment plants, which a design capacity of 6,300 milliliter per day, of which out of that, we are using 5,300 milliliter per day. That actually gives us buffer of 18%. But people ask me whether 18% is sufficient or not. That is the reason why we have a target to have a reserve margin of 20% by 2030. Why 20%? Because we are in Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya, which contributes 42% of the nation's GDP. No, we have businesses flourish. I mean, when businesses come to Selangor, KL and Putrajaya, they need water, they need power. So that is the reason why we have to invest in infrastructure to make sure we can deliver the water when the time comes.
Okay, so to avoid disruptions, which I will talk about in a moment, but I want to talk about the perennial problem that we have, which is the non-revenue water. On average, 37.1% for Peninsular Malaysia and Labuan. So yeah, okay, you aren't doing too badly. I think a point recognized by our minister who says that 3 states are doing well.
Correct.
You are one of those 3 states. But you have a target of 25% by 2030, right?
Correct.
So what is the NRW reduction strategy?
When we talk about NRW, we need to make sure that the number decrease year on year. And to decrease year on year, it requires hard work. Number one, we need to make sure that all places, all areas in Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya are covered in what we call district metering zone. Currently, we have 2,048 district metering zone, whereby in that particular zone, we can track the actual burst, the actual leak, and how much NRW in that particular zone. So we want to increase the DMZ level from 2,048 to 2,300 DMZ by 2030. That actually entails a coverage area of 80% by 2030. So once we have that 80%, we can do all the NRW works. We can actually monitor. Then we can actually maintain the pipes. And if, let's say, the pipe actually bursts in that DMZ, we can actually send our contractors to repair it promptly.
But what about old pipes? Because I gather some pipes in our country are more than 50 years old, right?
Yes.
And I think your target is to replace 300 km of pipes every year.
Correct.
Eventually replacing 5,600 km in 30 years, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
So what is the in-house policy with regards to that? And even from looking at it from a procurement perspective, whether you are getting the right price for the pipes and then having it replaced by competent contractors at the right price also.
Correct. The pipe that we operate is around 32,000 kilometer. That is from like Kuala Lumpur, New York to Kuala Lumpur. And out of that 32,000 kilometer, we have 6,000 kilometer of asbestos cement pipe.
Okay.
This is the area where we want to change. Like what you said just now, Shauning, we want to change 300 kilometer per year. But in 2034, we want to change up to 400 kilometer of pipe per year. Okay, the next question is that, are you okay with the costing of my pipe replacement? Obviously, when we talk about pipe, we need to look at the whole Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. What type do we use before? We have ductile iron, we have HDPE, we have PVCO, we have PVCM. So in our methodology to change the pipe, we will look at certain area, which pipe is more useful. For example, I cannot use the same pipe at the vicinity of the coastline. I cannot. The pipe that I use in Taman Tun, for example, may be different from pipe that I use in Sabak Bernam. So that has been always been in our methodology when we actually select the type of pipe to change. And of course, we do an open tender. Open tender to select contractor that can actually do the pipe replacement for us. Last year, we balloted. We balloted and 40 contractors are chosen to actually change the pipe for us. How
much is the cost going to be annually? I mean, maybe it's good news for us residents in Selangor and Klang Valley that the state has the ability to fund these pipe replacement programs, right?
Yes, correct.
But what is the total cost? Because I know you've got a Sukuk program up to 20 billion. So does that help?
Yes. Pipe replacement last year cost us approximately 480 billion for 300 kilometer. We are looking at ways and means to optimize the cost further. In terms of the source of fund where we get the money to replace our pipes, number one, we get it from our revenue. And number two, if let's say it is not sufficient, we will draw from our sukuk which, like I said just now, we have a limit of 20 billion.
So at what point will you actually be financially sustainable on your own as almost like an entity without state support or even federal support? Because I understand SPAN does give you a grant of about 150 million because you hit certain markers, right?
Correct.
So at what point will it happen? Because, as a resident, we would like the water company to not have to rely on the state ultimately.
As of now, the average tariff after the tariff adjustment is around 2 ringgit 21 cent per meter cube. And our cost overall, capex and opex, is around 2 ringgit and 42 cents per meter cube. It's just a little bit more that we should be able to be self-sufficient, break even. Whether we need to change our financing regime, maybe.
Yeah, because you are paying interest costs, 836 million in 2023. And I think the gearing will hit 12 times by 2028. That's the estimate, right?
We have discussed this in our board meeting, of which in the last board, the board has actually agreed for the management of Air Selangor to explore whether we can fund our capital expenditure moving forward using a PPP model, BOT model, or even performance-based contracting. That should alleviate some concern on our gearing numbers moving forward.
Do you think you'll ever list like PBA in Penang? Is that another model being considered? Because maybe that will put pressure on Air Selangor to behave like a corporate entity with very clear KPIs. Sometimes the argument is that state agencies get very sleepy because they are, nobody's keeping an eye on them. There's less accountability versus if you have minority shareholders.
Our emphasis right now is to make sure that we serve our customers better in terms of the safeguarding of customers' interests. We adhere to the KPI set by Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara. Every year they call us for a meeting and we have to explain to them whether we actually meet
the target. But you didn't answer me. Will you consider a listing?
It will have to be deliberated by the board members.
So it's possible. On the Breakfast Grill this morning is Adam Saffian Ghazali, CEO of Air Selangor. After the break, will climate change wreak havoc on Air Selangor's operations? And what are its mitigation plans? BFM 89.9.
You are listening to The Breakfast Grill, brought to you by U Mobile, Malaysia's #1 5G network.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Grill, where in the hot seat this morning is Adam Saffian Ghazali. He's the CEO of Air Selangor. Now, we talked earlier about why the company needs to raise those water tariffs. But I think if you're going to ask us for more money, shouldn't it come with higher standards of service? Because in 2024, and I got this all from your 2024 Sustainability Program report, there were 144 different types of disruptions lasting 3,160 hours and affecting more than 900,000 accounts. Is there a KPI to reduce this over time? Because honestly, I dread, and I'm sure a lot of us dread, those, be it scheduled or even unscheduled water cuts.
Understand. I'm sorry for people that experience difficulties during unscheduled water interruption. But let me be very frank here. Any water disruption, if let's say it is unscheduled, it is due to something that we cannot control. Primarily because of the pollution in the river. But the state government of Selangor has introduced a scheme whereby if let's say there is a pollution in the river, we can take the raw water from a pond. This is what we call Scheme Jaminan Air Mentah that has been completed by the state of government of Selangor with a price of 320 million. So once because that one is ready already, we should not get any uninterrupted water disruption due to pollution.
Okay, but what about those that are scheduled? Because people still find them enormously inconvenient, especially if, let's say, you're a business and you're doing F&B or anything that relies on water. Why does it happen? I mean, overseas, I don't seem to remember having many scheduled water cuts.
We have to balance this. A scheduled water cuts usually depends on we need to do some maintenance work.
Okay.
Maybe we need to clean the pipe, we need to clean the reservoir. That is the reason why we have to close the supply. But we have to balance it with whether we have enough capacity to actually supply the water.
So can't we use alternative sources of water to prevent this disruption? Can't it come from another water treatment plant, for example?
Okay, currently we have 36 main terminal reservoir in Selangor. Last year, we have initiated a program to connect all the 36 terminal reservoir. Once it is completed, we should see less disruption moving forward.
Will we also have an improvement in water quality? I know there's a 99.93% compliance with national water quality standards. But for many households, and I did a survey here, most of us have our own filters. And we've all experienced this brown water.
As a CEO of water operator, I shouldn't have a water filter in my house.
No.
Because I am confident that the water that come out from my water treatment plant is good and
Safe. Yeah.
Good and safe. The only thing is that the water actually travels 32,000 kilometers. So this part, we are doing cleaning periodically. So to cover 32,000 kilometers of pipes, we cannot cover it in 1 year or 2 years. This is a program where we have actually set for 5 years. Basically, if Taman Tun we clean this year, so another cleanup will be done in another 6 years, another 5 years. So
eventually, will we all not need these external water filtration systems? You drive around, you see them outside people's homes.
Yeah.
It's very common. Will that be a thing of a past?
I suggest, for me, personally, I don't have any water filter in my house.
Of course, you shouldn't, but
I shouldn't,
a lot of us do.
Yes. But water that come out from our treatment plant is safe. Is safe.
But then by the time it comes to our house, it's a different story. But anyway, I want to come back to ensuring sustainable water supply.
Correct.
I know Rasa water treatment plant is on schedule.
Yes.
And that's going to make a difference.
Yes.
But how are you going to boost the water reserve margin of 17.7%? To 18.6%, and then eventually you're looking at 20%,
20%,
right?
yes.
What are you going to be spending? I heard something as much as 6 to 7 billion over the next 2 years.
Correct. Of course, the number one that we are doing right now is Rasa water treatment plant. That will give us another 1,400 million litre per day, phase 1 and phase 2. We also now are looking at to increase our treatment capacity at Lebuhan Dagang, another 200 million litre per day. And we have now a meeting with pengurusan SI Berhad. They are doing a consultancy work to increase, to have a Langat 2 phase 2, where the water that we are going to get is from Pahang at 760 million litre per day. That should actually cover us moving forward. But what I want to tell here is that we are also looking at a compact water treatment plant.
Okay.
If, let's say, for example, we have a source nearby the demand center and we can treat the water, we would like to have a compact water treatment plant there. Another thing that we are doing to increase the level of water reserve margin is to encourage the use of water reclamation and water reuse.
Okay.
If, let's say, a factory or an industry can use water reclamation from sewage, they can take from Indah Water. And if they can use from IETS, the effluent treatment system, from Industrial Effluent Treatment System, they can use from a nearby factory. So
Now,
we are promoting that.
Okay, so that's good. But I want to ask about climate change.
Yes,
How difficult is it now going to make your job? Because we've got increased frequencies of droughts and then sudden flooding. So what mitigation measures does Air Selangor have to ensure at least you have access to new raw water supplies and also ensuring that your dams have sufficient water at the same time?
We have exhausted our raw water. That's why currently we are looking at Sungai Rasau to put our water treatment plant. But after that, we have to move our water treatment plant up north in Selangor. After that, because we have exhausted all the surface water, we have to go more towards water reclamation and water reuse. And we are looking at the possibility of doing a desalination plant.
Okay, that's for the future, right?
For the future.
So then why are we, in a way, encouraging data centers? Because they're known to be water guzzlers, right?
Yes.
And I know there's a new flat rate that's been introduced, set at 5 ringgit and 31 cents per cubic meter. But are we still too cheap? I mean, I know it's good for business, it's good for the economy, but what's the balance here?
For Selangor, we have 6,300 million liter per day capacity. Currently, we are only using 5,003. The amount of water that data centers are needing is only 250 MLD. For Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya, it is sufficient for us to supply the water.
Okay.
It's sufficient.
But are we being too lenient with them? Because Singapore, for example, they're going to impose this water usage effectiveness criteria.
Yes.
Are we going to do so also?
That is actually under the jurisdiction of our PBT. Definitely, we will, during the meeting, we will actually give feedback on that matter to them.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about is our attitudes towards water. And that's driven by facts.
Yes.
That the average domestic water consumption liters per capita per day is for the areas that you cover is 238, right?
Yes, correct.
But still much higher than the United Nations recommended level of 165. Why do you think we don't treat water as a precious, finite resource? Is it because for the longest time, water was just too cheap?
But perhaps the price of water doesn't make an impact to them.
Although they still complain.
But for me, when I go down to meet our customers, I ask them, why do you think you pay a lot for water? They say they don't use the water that much. Then I tell them whether you need to check your internal piping. Usually, most of them, when they check the internal piping, they make a repair, the water consumption comes down.
Okay.
Comes down, yeah.
So, we are one of the cheapest in ASEAN, I think fourth cheapest, right? But
Yes.
globally, Singapore is like many times more expensive. New Zealand, Australia, much higher.
Yes.
So if, let's say, really we need to change the mindset, is it only the stick approach? Or could there be a carrot approach where we think of water as a finite resource and water conservation is a way of life?
I don't believe in a stick approach. I would go for more carrot approach. That is why in Air Selangor, we have these apps, Air Selangor Apps 2.0, where you can download and you can see how much water do you consume every month. And if, let's say, that water that you consume is more than the required level, then you should take necessary action.
You should think about it.
Yep.
On that note, thank you for your time on the Breakfast Grill this morning was Adam Saffian Ghazali. He is the CEO of Air Selangor. I'm Wong Xiaoning, BFM 89.9.
Business Fueling Minds. The Breakfast Grill with U-Mobile Biz, Malaysia's #1 5G network. 5G makes business sense.
You have been listening to a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station. For more stories of the same kind, download the BFM app.